any ideas on that?
Action bowlers or whatever, because that's what's known throughout the internet. Action bowlers radio, internet show, whatever. I think that's probably the best thing.
I like Action Bowlers Radio.
Right, absolutely.
I like it. In fact, I thought about it and I said Action Bowlers Radio is perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Right.
Yeah, I was going back in my mind, to the best of my recollection, I bowled against Kidder, I'm going to say 5 or 6 times in my life. And all the matches took place in 72 and 3. Okay. But after I went to work for the PBA, he came out at different times, and guys on tour bowled against him while I was there as a spectator.
Right.
And one time I just distinctly remember was him coming down to the Fairlanes, Towson, Maryland, and they bowled Gary Dickinson on the end pair. And I do want to talk to him about that match, because that was one where they took the ride down from Long Island and challenged Dickinson. And I don't remember if there was a rematch the next week when we bowled at Garden City.
Right.
But I do want to talk about him traveling, as well as his action bowling in Long Island in the New York metropolitan area. I do know he traveled down the coast. I don't know how far he went. I don't know if he got as far as Chicago, Detroit. But obviously, in Kidder's case, because he was willing to get in his car and get out of the Northeast somewhat,
right.
I want to do a separate show about his action bowling when he traveled. And then, of course, the metropolitan New York area matches, Connecticut matches, and I've got a great story with me and Ernie and Kidder and Johnny Bell bowling a doubles match at White Plains in August of '72, and it's hilarious. It is a hilarious story, and I want to get Ernie on about that one. Ernie and I could probably talk action matches for 10, 15 shows.
That'd be great.
Yeah, it's never going to end. And I bowled with Ernie quite a few times, doubles. This particular night against Kidder and Bell, we lost. But I got to give you a little bit of a scenario. You're going to love this story. I'll make it quick. Ernie calls me on the phone. He says, "You going to White Plains Bowl tonight?" I says, "Yeah." He says, "You got plenty of money?" I says, "Yeah, I got about $500. I says, "You got plenty of money?" He says, "Yeah, I got about $500. I says, "Great." As it turns out, both of us got $100, but we're not telling the other one. So we're dead broke. We had a shitty summer. We're not bowling well. So now we're going to go down to White Plains Bowl, and we're going to look for a match. So I go down with half a dozen of my friends. He's there himself. All of a sudden, about I'm going to say about 4 in the morning, a match gets arranged. Me and Ernie against Bell and Kidder downstairs on the first pair. And we practice. I hit the pocket every ball. Ernie puts me anchor. I hit the pocket every ball the whole game. First game, it's 100 a man. And then there's some other bets as well. So Ernie puts up 100. I put up 100. And then I think the first bet might have been $500-600 when everybody bet. So it gets to the 10th frame. I hit the pocket 9 straight times. I need a mark. I 4-6. Ernie's going crazy. He's going nuts. He's yelling at me, "Why didn't you give it some room? Why did you have to yank it? All you needed was a mark." He's going crazy. Now he shook me up a little bit. I said, "Relax, don't worry, we're going to win the next game." Now he doesn't know I don't have any money. I don't tell him I don't have any money. I go to one of my friends, I borrow 100. He doesn't tell me he's out of money. He goes to somebody in there, he borrows 100. So now we're bowling on borrowed money, which makes it even worse. And sure enough, I hit the pocket 9 times the second game. I need a mark. I leave a baby split. I miss it. He goes crazy. He takes his shoes off. He throws them. He's yelling at me, "You're a choke. You're no good. You stink. Why didn't you let me bowl anchor? If you were going to choke like that, you hit the pocket 9 straight balls." I says, "Come on, let's bowl another game. We can beat these guys. Give me $100. He says, "I don't have any money. You give me $100. I says, "I don't have any money either." He says, "You told me you had $500. I says, "I lied." I says, "You told me you had $500. He says, "I lied." So as we're taking our shoes off, and he's pissed because I choked off 2 games. Now I don't have any money. I can't make my car payment. I can't buy groceries. I had to borrow money to get here. I said, so did I. I'm sorry. What am I going to do? And he's lecturing me. And right at that moment, we hear these guys coming down the escalator like with army boots on. It sounds like there's 20 guys running down the escalators with boots. It's cops with billy clubs. They got a bullhorn. And they announce that nobody moves, nobody leaves. There's people that are going to be under arrest. They go out on the lanes, and they handcuff every bowler that's bowling. Everyone that's bowling in a bowling area gets handcuffed. And one of them is Johnny Edelberg. So Johnny gets handcuffed, and they yell at everyone else that isn't bowling. Now, Ernie and I are not bowling, and we're not near the bowling area. We're in the back. We're sitting in the concourse area. Anyone not bowling, you got 1 minute to get out of here or you're under arrest. We run up that fucking escalator. We get out in that parking lot. I threw my shoes in my bag. I'm out there in my bare feet. I never wore socks. I'm out in the parking lot with my bare feet, a double ball bag, throwing the shit in my car. And right at the front door of the bowling center, there's a paddy wagon. And they're taking everybody out in the paddy wagon, and they arrested everyone who was left on the lanes. And the only one I remember being arrested was John Edelberg, who eventually became the PBA's first assistant tournament director under Harry Goldman. So, for the rest of our lives, I've told Ernie I saved him. I saved him from getting arrested because I choked off 2 times in the 10th. I said, if I won either game, we would have been out there. We would have been arrested. You should be thanking me that I'm a choke. So every time he sees me for the last 42 years, the first thing he says to me is, you're a choke. And for 42 years, he's been telling me I'm a choke because of that night. And I, for 42 years, tell him I stopped him from having an arrest record. So that's how far we go back. Jimmy was one of the best action players that ever lived.
Right.
And, Jimmy was fantastic. And, of course, I roomed with him. I traveled the country with him in the early 70s. And McHugh was fantastic. He was a Newsday winner. He won PBA regionals. He was second in 3 PBA events. He led the Showboat in 72. Gus Lampo beat him. He led another one somewhere. My TV show 2 weeks after I won, I led Winston-Salem. Listen to this show. I lead Winston-Salem. And on the show is me, Petraglia, and McHugh. How's that one for Eastern bowlers? What do you think about that one?
That's pretty good.
Yeah, Kurt Schmidt, Bob Hood, Kurt Schmidt, Mike McGrath, me, Petraglia, and McHugh. And Petraglia beats me for the title. That was his first TV win. And I always thought about that show because the 3 of us were from the same region. That's how tough we were back then as kids. With Lemongello, of course, was the leader of the pack. And this is right when Petraglia became great. That was his first win. And then later on that winter, he won the last 3 shows of the winter tour. He won Springfield, Virginia, New Orleans, and the Tournament of Champions. What was more unbelievable about those 3 wins in a row is he's the only bowler in the history of the PBA to win 3 tournaments in a row on TV where he was the tournament leader. So that means he only could bowl 1 game. He never came up the ladder. He led 3 in a row and won 3 in a row.
Right.
That's never been done. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
That is, let me tell you something. Never mind leading. Leading alone is tough. Leading 3 weeks in a row, the only one that I think's ever done it, I think Roth did it, and I think Walter Ray did it, but they didn't win their 1 game when they got on for the championship. But Petraglia led and won 3 in a row.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that is. It's not so easy to always win from the 1 position.
Oh no, well that's what put him on the map. Before that winter, when he beat me first, he had 2 PBA titles. At the end of the year, he had 7. He won 5 times that year. But Johnson won 5 times, including 3 out of 5 in the fall. And when Johnson won the World Open, which was the last tournament of the year, he had to beat Petraglia on that show. Everybody knew it was a Bowler of the Year match, because if he beats Petraglia, he bowls Larry Lobb for the title. And he beat Larry Lobb. And in the 10th frame, he leaves the 6-7. He's got to make the 6-7, and strike to tie Larry Lobb, and he does. Then he beats him in a 2-frame roll-off, and he wins Bowler of the Year.
I'll tell you, you got a bunch of fantastic stories.
Yeah, well, that was Petraglia. You know, that's what made him great, and from then on, he became a legend. Before then, you know, he wasn't considered the best left-hander on the tour. Neither was Anthony. The best left-hander on the tour was Dave Davis, who was Bowler of the Year in '67. And by 71, he had more titles than Billy Allen, and he was considered the best left-hander in the PBA Tour. But when Petraglia led at 71 for money winnings and was second in the Bowler of the Year race, that's when people started to think that Petraglia was now getting close to Davis. And then, of course, when Anthony became Bowler of the Year in '74, '5, and '6, that was the end of Petraglia and Davis's dream of ever being called the best left-hander, because they knew, and they won't admit it. They might. They never too happy realizing that Earl Anthony come out of the West and beat him, and when he beat him, there was never anything that people saw like that before. They never saw anything like Anthony. Anthony, in my opinion, when he won the third Bowler of the Year, that's when people started to realize he might be as good as Don Carter or Dick Weber. And then when he became Bowler of the Year again in '81, '2, and '3, that pretty much locked him in when he got that 41st or 42nd title at the end of '84. He didn't bowl a year, the whole winter of '84. He went out in '84 and won the Masters after not bowling 16 weeks. He had quit the end of '83, retired. Did say he wanted to bowl the Masters in '84. Went out and bowled it and won it. And that's when he cemented, I believe, his legacy as possibly the greatest bowler that ever lived. And of course, the PBA voted him that in 2009 at its 50th anniversary. They named Earl Anthony the greatest bowler that ever lived. To the dismay, I might add, of Jimmy Carter, who felt his father was slighted because the PBA only recognized 5 of his 11 majors. But Carter won 6 of those majors before there was a PBA.
Right.
And they didn't buy into it. You know, they didn't buy tournaments that you won that weren't officially PBA events. So when Carter was voted the 11th greatest bowler that ever lived by the PBA, Don's son Jimmy was very, very hurt by it.
Well, listen, I gotta run. My wife's waiting for me. She wants
all right, you go right ahead. I'll talk with you. I'm very focused on this, so we'll stay in touch.
Very good, and like I say, you can go in any direction. Talk about food and talk about when you go out to eat. I love that.
Oh, I love the going out to eat story. Got some very funny going out to eat stories too. It'll be very interesting.
Absolutely great, especially the meals after the action bowling. Okay.
Oh, I love those stories.
That's it. I'll talk to you.
All right, Cliff.
Right up. Bye.